Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Rocio. I am the Programming Manager here at SAGNY. Today's webinar, we have Kevin Stoner from Lightstone Systems. He will be presenting the power of the inbox, tips and tricks for successful email marketing. It was one of the breakfast presentations we had earlier in April. Pretty powerful and useful. Kevin, I'll go ahead and pass things over to you. If anyone has any questions, please type them in, and we will hold off until Kevin is finished with his presentation, and then we will answer everything. Let me change over. Hold on one second. All right, you should be ready to go, Kevin.
Yep, we're just going to get it started here. All right, how do we look?
Great.
All right, awesome. Well, we're going to get started, and first of all, thanks for having me on today. It's definitely a privilege to be part of you guys, and I'm sure lots of people have heard of Constant Contact before, and just a little introduction of who I am, and it's great to partner with SAGNY. I work with Constant Contact. We help small businesses and really communicate with their customers and their prospects and stay in touch. And so I'm sure many of you have heard of Constant Contact before, and I'm an authorized local expert based in the Long Island, New York area. And we've been working with Constant Contact for, oh gosh, I guess it's been about 7 years now, helping those small businesses. So today we're going to talk about successful email marketing. Here's some tips and tricks, making sure that your email communications are everything that they need to be in order to get your message across to people, so it comes across the correct way. And so again, this is who I am. My company is Lightstone Systems, and we're an online marketing company. We help with with web design, e-commerce solutions, as well as email marketing and online promotion. So my contact info is right there on the screen. Feel free to email me, chat with me. Any community, those are the ways that we certainly love to stay connected. I'll say this too. Basically, after the event, I know it's being recorded. Because of our time constraints, there's a lot more tips that I wish I had the time to share with you. So what we'll do is we'll get your registration list. Everybody that signed up and attended the webinar. What we'll do is we'll put together the full PowerPoint presentation, and we'll email it out to everybody so you can go through it and kind of review it at your own leisure. No need to kind of scramble to take notes and say, hey, what was that Kevin said? So if it's on the screen, you can not worry about writing it down. Just maybe pay attention to the I guess the stories that I share and that kind of thing. So I think it's a safe thing to say for everyone that first impressions matter, and I've been using this phrase a lot lately, especially as part of the networking groups that I go to, because it's so important that the first impression that we make is the right one, it's the good one. And so the story I've been telling lately about first impressions is we decided finally to do some landscaping in our home, and one of the things we decided to do was we decided to put in sprinklers, and that may seem kind of silly to most of you. Maybe some of you have probably had them for a very long time, but we've held off doing it for, well, now 16 years, and so it was time. So I did what any normal person does, and they go and they get a couple companies and they get some quotes and that kind of thing. And so now, granted, I'm a marketer, so I'm always evaluating things like right from the moment that you set foot into my door or up on my property. I'm evaluating, am I going to do business with you? Am I do I have a comfort level? Do I have a rapport going with you? That kind of thing. And so first impressions are so important. So I had lots of people come, and but there was this one guy, and what he did was he pulls up in his truck, and when he pulls up in front of my home, he blocks my driveway. Now, I don't know if that bothers everybody on the call today or not, but it bothered me. It bothered me because for a variety of different reasons. One, I'm just that's driveway is my place to put my cars, and it also happened that my wife was out. She wasn't home at the time, and I didn't know when she was coming home. And well, we have 4 kids, and one of them is an 8-month-old baby, and so that was kind of a big deal to me that maybe she'd have to park on the street. She might be bringing home some groceries. I didn't know where she was, what she was doing, but so it kind of bothered me that he pulled up and he parked his truck right in blocking my driveway, and that was not a good first impression. And so the story, the moral of the story here is that first impressions do matter. And so when it comes to email, Do you want your first impression to be the one on the left, or do you want your first impression to be the one on the right? And so we've all seen emails that look like this one that's on the left and the one that's on the right. And so the question is, should your first impression be, just a big block of text, or should it be something that's graphically appealing that catches my eye and, invites me to dig in a little deeper there? All right, so so this is what we're evaluating of whether that first impression is going to really captivate us. Now, the one on the left, I'm looking at, I'm going, that's a lot of text. I don't really think that I have time to read that right now, so maybe I'll come back to it later, which is essentially the same equivalent to saying I probably will never come back to this email because I think it's going to take too much time, and therefore I've moved on, and now I've already forgotten about this email and moved on to the latest thing. So the one on the right, very clean. Again, the graphic captivates me, and there's a clear call to action. And we're going to talk about all those things as we kind of keep moving through the webinar today. All right, so what is email marketing? Now, I get this just about every session I do. There's always somebody in the audience that yells out, email marketing is spam. And that's not true, all right? So if you want to look at a really good definition of what, I'll emphasize the word good email marketing is, it is delivering a professional email communication, but it's more than that. It's to an interested audience, and so a lot of times, we focus so much on what we want out of the email communication that we start to neglect what it is that the audience needs. All right, and so it's got to contain information that they find valuable. And here's the other thing too, is that you have no control over where somebody's going to read your email, whether it's going to be on their mobile device, on their desktop computer, on a tablet, on a laptop, whatever it is. So it's got to look great in any inbox, because I might be using Gmail, I might be using Office 365, I might be using AOL, any of those email service providers, it could be any of them. It's got to look great on any of those inboxes. All right, so it's one of those things that's really important. Is good email marketing covers all of these different pieces here. So as far as our agenda goes today, we'll talk a little bit about why email marketing is so important. And if you aren't doing it now, I highly encourage that you do so and you do it right away, because we'll get into the reasons why behind that. But we'll talk about some of the key things is how do you harness the power of the inbox, because it's a privilege to land in someone's inbox. It's not an absolute right. So you don't want to take advantage of it. You want to make sure that it really covers them in a good way. All right, or it comes across in a good way. So we'll talk about healthy lists. Lists are important, but doing it in a positive way is important as well. Great content. Mobile-friendly templates are absolutely key as far as the emails being what they need to be, and then getting your emails open and tracking the results, and then kind of some quick tips on what is the best practices around all those emails. So first off is this: if I ask the question of what is the #1 app on people's cell phones today, I'd get a variety of answers. Some people would say the sports apps and ESPN. Some people would say Facebook is the #1 app. Some people would say, all sorts of different things. I mean, it really depends on your particular flavor of what you think is the #1 app on a cell phone. But the bottom line is just about everybody has email. And so the stat here says more than half of all emails are opened on a mobile device. That grows every day. Every day it seems like there's more and more people that are reading emails primarily on a mobile device. And so, like if you talk to my wife, if you're trying to communicate with her, she only reads her emails on her mobile device. She never sits down on a computer. I mean, she does some of it, on her iPad, but almost everything is done from her mobile device. And then even somebody like me, I'm very infrequently in the office. I'm running around a lot, and so my mobile phone is absolutely key for communicating with me by email. All right. So fun little fun tip here is the more people. That's alarming to me as somebody who likes likes personal hygiene. I like my teeth being brushed, and so it kind of scares me with the idea that some people might actually value their cell phone more than they value their toothbrush. But don't even know what to say about that. So I guess what it comes down to this is that email is not just about blasting people. And so I talk to lots of people today, and I hear them say those words that, oh, I'm going to send out an email blast. I'm going to hit my list with a blast. The blast is an ugly word, and we don't really want to use that anymore because emails have to become more personal. And so it boils down to, and this is social media and email altogether, it boils down to engagement. And so engagement is this new word of mouth. Now, back when I was a kid growing up, we had these things called neighbors, and those neighbors that we actually talked to, that were nearby us, we actually talked to them. We would go out and we'd say, hey, Johnny, how's that new lawnmower doing that you're using? And today we don't really do that, a lot of that. We do it much more often in online sources. And so, what people will share on Facebook, they'll share it on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Pinterest, any of those places, by email, what they're doing and how they're going. And so this idea of engagement and captivating people, all right, is really the key in driving your sales process and your marketing efforts, forward. All right. So why is email so important? Because email is everywhere. Not only is it everywhere, it works everywhere. And so that's why email is just about everybody has it. 88% regularly check it. 91% of people checking email daily. And I used my grandfather as an example. Now he's been gone. Actually, we just recently would have celebrated his 101st birthday, but he's been gone a couple of years now. But he was 95 when he passed away. Checked his email every single day. And so this is going back several years ago, but still 95 years old, checked his email. All right, so people were using it very frequently. It's reliable. 90% of the time, email lands in somebody's inbox. If you post something on social media, on Facebook or Twitter, all right, just maybe 2%, a very small fraction of people are going to see the post that you post there. So email still is something that's very, very key because it gets there. And the bottom line is there's been lots of research into all the different ways that email works. Does it work? Does it not work? All right, but the stats show 3 times the conversion rate and an average ROI of $44.25. Now, there really isn't another marketing method that's out there that really reaches that kind of levels of ROI. And so, for those of you that have done direct mail, you know what the response is to that. And trade shows, tend to have a high cost and not necessarily an equivalent of return on investment. So there's a lot of different things that are out there, but continuing that email is so important. And so I was talking with somebody just on Tuesday, and they were telling me how they had met somebody at a networking event and said, well, we'll stay connected. And so they, by email, we're staying connected. And lo and behold, 2 years, now, yes, you heard that correctly, 2 years later, they became this person's client. And they're now not only just this person's client, they're her best client. And so that just goes to show you how important it is that the email process continues. And you may not see an immediate return, but over a longer period of time, you will definitely see that the relationships continue to be cultivated and they grow. So we looked at that first email that I put up on the screen as we're talking about our first impressions. And so why does regular email not work? And this is an email we've all seen through either Outlook or Gmail or any of those regular email editors. And so there's a couple of different reasons. And really what it comes down to is that you don't have a whole lot of control. And so it's important to be, you don't have time to sit down and send out multiple emails to different batches and groups of people, but it's likely that your internet service provider or whoever manages your mail server is going to limit the amount of emails that you can send at one time to a group of people. And so if you send too many for an ISP, they might just say, hey, we think you're spamming people, we're going to shut your account down. I actually had I'll get to the story in a minute, but you also don't have any control over how the formatting looks. So again, we're very text heavy, not a lot of graphics. All right, I don't have a way to to really kind of point out the key pieces of information that are in there. The branding, I don't know who this is. As much as it says it's from, in this case, Southside Cycling, all right, it doesn't really show me that clear logo that kind of makes me remember, oh, that's my cycling place that, it just jumps out at me. And then you have the potential for spam complaints because people think that this is the regular, quote-unquote, junk that you get every day. But I think most importantly is this last bullet item here. And I think this is probably the most underutilized aspect of email marketing today, is if you don't have tracking and reporting of email results. It's so important that after you're sending out your email communications that you go back and look at the reports to make your marketing efforts better. And there's all sorts of different ways that you can do that. And so that's why it's important to be using an email service provider. And so we were talking about limited emails to be sent at once. And one of the stories I tell is I was talking to a client one day, and she said, hey, Kevin, how come you're ignoring my emails? Why have you not been responding to my emails? And I said, well, what are you talking about? She's like, I have been sending you emails for a week, and you have just completely ignored me. And I said, I would never do that. When did you send those emails? I can't believe I missed them. And so while I'm on the phone with her, we're going back through my inbox, and she's telling me the dates and times that she sent them, and I cannot find a single one of them in my junk mail, in my regular mail. They're just nowhere to be found. So I said, listen, we've been doing business for a long time. I said, I would never ignore your emails. I said, something's wrong. I said, I think you need to get your IT guy in to investigate, what's going on. Well, lo and behold, they go and they investigate what's going on, and it turns out that they had been what's called blacklisted by an internet service provider. So every email, not just the email marketing messages, the personal one-to-one emails were being blocked by the internet service provider, not reaching the user's inboxes. And so they worked with their IT provider, and they ended up getting the domain back to safe status, so it wasn't blacklisted, and then suddenly the email started coming in from this client again. But it just emphasizes why it's so very quickly things can go wrong if you're not careful. That you need to be managing your emails very, very effectively and very carefully. All right. So what email marketing, good email marketing, let me emphasize that again, good email marketing does when you use a service provider is it automates those best practices for you. All right. And by automating those best practices, it makes you look like a rock star. You want to look like you're doing a great job. All right. So you start with things like simple, easy to use, beautiful mobile responsive templates. Now, and I'm going to emphasize also the word mobile responsive, and because like those earlier stats we were talking about, so many people are using their mobile devices today to read emails. Your emails need to recognize, am I on a computer or am I on a mobile device, and then reformat accordingly. So that's what a mobile responsive email is. It recognizes which technology is being used to read it, and then it adjusts the formatting of the email appropriately. But again, like I said earlier, good email marketing, shows your brand off and does it well. All right, it makes it personalized, so the emails are just to that person, and it references appropriate information about them. All right, and then it also helps you with managing lists. Now, if you're not using a service provider for your emails, it can be very easy for that to go haywire and manage all sorts of Excel spreadsheets, and then you run the risk of uploading the wrong list. And then somebody was unsubscribed. Now they can make a complaint, and then there could be fines. It just gets messy. So using a service provider helps you to do those things. Add new providers, handle those emails that come back. Because I'm sure you sent out maybe a dozen emails and then gotten the ding, 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 ding. I'm on vacation. I'm out of office. My mailbox is full, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right, those are annoying when they kind of come flooding back into your inbox as well. But most importantly, is that you want to manage your unsubscribes well, because that helps you stay in compliance with the law. And so if you haven't heard of this term, it's called the CAN-SPAM Act. That's here in the U.S. Canada has a similar version. So if you do any business with Canada, or with Canadian businesses, I should say, you need to make sure that you're in compliance with those laws as well. But in the U.S., what the law says is that for different things. One, you have to provide a way for people to unsubscribe from your list, and you have to honor that request within 10 business days. Right, so basically within 2 weeks. You have to do things like provide a location where you can be reached, a physical address. You have to provide a subject line that relates to the actual content of the email that you're sending out. So those are just some different things that could be issues if you're not staying in compliance with all those laws. But basically, by using a service provider, like it says here, it's going to ensure that you're going to get delivered, you're going to be able to get some results, and it's going to help you stay in compliance with any of the laws that are out there. So the first place you need to get started is you need to start with a list. All right? And so what it comes down to is how you ask and where you ask. And like it says right here, yes, you have to. You do have to ask for permission. And so permission is an interesting thing because in the U.S., there's what's called, well, actually it comes up on the next slide. We'll just kind of get there in a second. But there's explicit and there's implicit permission. And so explicit permission is that I have asked you if I can add you to my list. You said yes, that's fine. And then there's also implied permission, which is I'm going back to my customer database. They've done business with me in the last 12 months or so, and so they're a regular buyer. We have an implied business relationship. Now, the interesting flip on this with Canada is that the Canadians took it one step further. Canada basically said, we'll give you one shot for people to give you permission, and then that's it. So basically in Canada, I have to say, I'd like to send you information, or communicate with you regularly. Please approve this request, and then they have to actually take action to approve it. Otherwise, after that first request, you are done. There is no further permission allowed until the other user acts on it. So it's very, very important to follow that. So I just was talking about this express or explicit consent. So asking people for permission to send them emails. All right, and then when you're asking for permission, like it says here, be straightforward. Let them know what they can expect and how you're going to use that. So if you say that, hey, I'm going to sign you up for my monthly newsletter, they shouldn't be getting an email once a week. All right, the frequency in the request was that I'm going to get an email from you once a month. Don't send it more often than that. It's okay to send them less, but it's not okay to really kind of oversend them. So make sure you're clear on those things. You have to offer that unsubscribe in every email so that they can act on it at any time. All right, and again, respect your privacy, people's privacy. And so if you have a privacy policy, and you should, make sure you post it somewhere that people can read it. Let them know how you're going to use this data, how you're storing the data, how you're protecting the data, those kinds of things. Because that's a big deal today in today's world is data theft. People are concerned about it. And I wasn't too concerned about it until I was a victim of real credit card theft twice last year. Not just once, but twice. And so my debit card number had been stolen twice, and I don't, it was really irritating to me. But again, somebody's, had shared that information and had gotten a hold of it when they should not have through a data breach. All right, I said this earlier, respect the privileges of communicating with people. Have a plan. Make sure that you plan something out so that way you're not saying, oh no, I got to sandwich this other email in, and now I'm communicating twice in the same week, and flooding people's inboxes. Don't do that. Again, respect it as a privilege, not as a right to land in people's inbox, because that's what it is. It is a privilege. And like I said, right down here, we're talking about compliance guidelines, and this is just a summary of what some of those are. All right, again, the CAN spam law, and then the Canadian version, which is called CASL. Okay, so permission is a very, very important first step. If you get off on the right foot, again, that first impression matters. You'll be on your way to doing the right thing. All right. This is all well and good that you're going to ask them for permission, but what's the reason? All right, the whole typical thing that we're always asking, what's in it for me? All right, and I'm not talking about you as the business owner. I'm talking about in it for the people that are joining your list. What's in it for them? And so, for a lot of people, maybe it's a deal. I want to know about the special price lists that are coming out. I want to know about the promotions. I want to know about where I can find you at a trade show. Any of those different things are fine, but give them a reason to join your list and let them know when to expect it. Maybe you're going to offer them early access to a specific product line, or you're going to give them early access to special pricing, give them special notifications, whatever it is. Give them a reason to join. And so some examples are ongoing education, like that special treatment, that VIP special treatment. I just talked about exclusive access inside of news. Maybe content can be. It doesn't have to always be so money centric as far as deals. It can be like these things like an ebook or a white paper or a guide. All right, those are all digital content that can get shared, and that makes it of value for me to join my list. All right, for nonprofits, there's updates on the missions of what nonprofits going on, and then there's friends and family discounts, those are kind of things. But here's the important note on this slide is that the number one reason that people unsubscribe is that they say, this doesn't matter to me. I don't care about this. And so, for example, I had given my email address to a real estate agent. And so she, shortly after I had given my contact info to her, started sending me emails. And the first time I looked at her email, I was kind of like, this is pretty lousy. All right, but I don't like to report people as spam or unsubscribe so quickly out of the gate, partially because I'm in the industry. I have some respect for that. But I kept looking at these emails going, this part of the expression is just junk. All right, it's worthless to me. And so what did I do? I finally, well, in this case, she didn't have it unsubscribed, so I marked it as spam so it would go to my junk folder, and I wouldn't have to see it from her anymore. But I was sad in that because again, her content is just irrelevant. She's abusing the privilege she has of communicating with me. All right, she's a real estate agent. She's talking about all sorts of weird, wacky stuff that just really has no relevance to the real estate industry. All right? You can be personable when communicating with people and talk about things that don't necessarily have to do with your industry, but make it something that's going to be relatable and it's going to build a relationship. All right. So when you're talking about creating content, because in the digital marketing world, content is king. What the content you put together is so important, and we're going to be talking about that some more with Sagni in the next couple of weeks as far as what content, how do you build great content. All right. But if you need a general rule to follow, it's not about you. All right. Content has to be great in the eyes of the people that you're sending it to. So since it's not about you, it's really about what you know or what you have access to that they don't. So you can really shine in the spotlight as somebody who has access to a wealth of information. You're an expert in your field, an expert in your industry, and now that's why people are coming to you, is because they would say, hey, you know what, I know that person. They do a great job, and I'm going to go to them. So make sure that the focus is on being relevant to your audience. All right, and when we're going to say this is, you have to figure out how much is enough. And I'll give you a hint, and it's going to come up on a slide shortly. But today, less is more. So that's what it comes down to, is when you're thinking about content, is less is more today. All right, but it's very easy to start building content. You get asked questions every single day, and so those questions you get asked, if you aren't, if you can't think of them off the top of your head, take the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, whatever it is, and start writing down the questions that you're being asked by your customers and your prospects, maybe people that you just are in, in the community or that you network with, and write those questions down and answer those questions in content. All right, and don't forget that images are content too. So the images that we use when we're communicating with people, those are very important to make sure that the image supports whatever content that we're sharing, and it doesn't take away from the message that's there. So again, I'm going to recap this by saying, write for your audience, not for you. All right, it has to be in relatable terms that they can communicate to. So here's an example of an email that looks really good. And so the first question that they ask you is, you want to put a smile like this on your dog? Now I don't know about you, and maybe you're not a pet lover, but my dog is pretty important to me. He's my buddy, and so I want to make sure he's happy. When he looks at me with those eyes and that just says, "Daddy, I'm sad," I can't help but be moved by that. So yeah, I want to make sure that I put a nice smile on my dog, that I make him happy too. And now this is something that's relating to me and connecting to that in a sense, this case, that heart message that's here. All right. So, but with your audience, at the same time, when you're writing all these things, remember that 38% of people will unsubscribe if they think that the message is boring. But worse, 32% of people think that when they think it's irrelevant, they're going to send it to spam, and that is not a good thing. Unsubscribes are not good. Spams are worse. That is really a bad day in email marketing. So you don't want to be reported as somebody who's spamming. So I talked about images before. 90% of the information we process in our brains is done by visual content. So it's the things we see that trigger other associations. And so if you're a chocolate lover and you see chocolate sitting on the screen here in this particular image, you kind of go, I can really go for some of that now. All right, maybe it's a little bit of a pick me up in the afternoon, a little after lunch snack, or whatever it is. But it's got you thinking about something that you maybe weren't thinking about a minute ago. But that's because of the power that images have. So it's important that we are communicating through images. And so, pictures are make or break a lot of the action that we see. So the best practice with our content, any pictures or images that you're putting into your emails, they should be clickable. All right, people today expect that when I see a picture, like in this case, that great vacation spot right there, and I could just wish I could magically teleport myself to that spot, because I love sitting on the beach. That should be clickable. All right, so people expect when they go and they tap on it, it's going to take them somewhere. It's got to be something that relates to what you're talking about. Don't just take them to someplace that just doesn't make any sense. All right, but this is a really important aspect too. Is it says the key action needs to be above the scroll line. Now, typically when I do this session in person, I ask people in the audience, well, where is the scroll line? The scroll line, obviously you can't do that, but the scroll line is the bottom of your screen when you first open an email or you're looking at a screen, before you have to grab the little handle on the side and drag it to move the screen up or down. All right, so the most important thing that you want them to do, the most important thing, needs to be on that very first page at the top of that, somewhere in that top section above the scroll line. So I was talking with a client a while ago, and they were talking. We were putting together an email for their an event that they were doing. They were doing an annual user conference where all their users would come and they would have to register for this conference. And so she had the register now button all the way at the bottom of the email, and I said, that's not a good idea. You need to put that at the top because that's your key action. What do you want them to do? You want them to register. And her response to me was, well, but I got a lot of information that I need to share with them before they register. And my response is this. I don't even know a percentage number, but a lot of people are not going to even read the information that you insist that they need to know before they register. So let's capture their attention right away. So I said, let's put the register now button right at the top of the email in the top section above the scroll line. And then after that, we'll load it with all the information that you think that they absolutely need to know. And then towards the bottom, put another register now button. So for those people that are brave enough to get through all this information, this content, they get to the bottom there, the register now button is right there again, a repeat call to action. But the first and most important call to action needs to be above that scroll line. All right. So think about your design choices. Make sure it's wise. Make sure you limit choices. So the more choices you give somebody in an email to take action on, the less engagement you're going to get from that email. So if there's an inverse relationship there, you want to make sure that you keep the choices as few as possible, so that way it drives people to make a choice and make a decision. Because if I put 3 images up, I have to sit there and kind of go, do I want this one or I want that one? But I like the one in the middle and the one on the left. You don't want people thinking about that. I have to pick A or I pick B. Period. Done. Move on. Okay? So make sure that your emails and all of your brands across social media and on the web are all consistent with one another. And so your logos need to be used and reused. Your color schemes need to be used and reused. All right? Make sure that your emails are branded with the same colors and logos and images as you would find on your website or that you would find on social media. And if there's a disparity between those things, it's time maybe for a revamp. And so I had one client that they had their website, which was their company name. They had their social media, which 2 or 3 of their key employees had their own social media sites. And the issue was, I said, well, what if those employees leave? I would rebrand and drive all your social media presence together under your business's name. And so they did. They went and rebranded and made everything consistent across all of those. All right. So, but make sure that people feel comfortable when they read your email that they go, oh yeah, this is definitely the company I've always been dealing with, because it looks just like their website, and the tone of the content is just like talking to the owner of the business or the salesperson I deal with, whatever it is. But make sure that that's recognizable and it looks the same everywhere. All right. So here's a couple of quick tips for getting your email opened. And so you'll see again, you're seeing consistent images of nicely designed emails, all right, with key actions that are above the scroll line. Start number 1 with a single column template. Now, that's an interesting question or an interesting statement there, because when email marketing first came out, everything was single columns. And then we got fancy, and there was 2 columns or 3 columns or left columns and right columns, and a bigger column on the left or small on the right, that whole thing. With today's environment being what it is, and largely due to the mobile environment, because you have a very narrow screen with your mobile device, we've shifted back to single column templates. And so if you've been using the same template for 3 or 4 years in your email provider, it's time for a makeover. Take a look at it. Get rid of all those those duplicate columns. Just try to standardize on a single column template. All right. General best practice is that you have 3 images or less. So again, those design choices, you want to make sure that, again, it's not too many graphics that are distracting to too many places. All right, so 3 images or less is the best practice here. All right, and then finally, fewer than 20 lines of text. All right, text-heavy emails do not get read. It's just the fact that people don't have the time for it. They want to look at an email, get the general point from the subject line, from the image, and maybe from a call to action, and then they're going to move on. They're not going to read novels on there. So if you have a lot of text you want people to read, it's a best practice to summarize it in very short form and then have a link to drive them someplace else that will show them the additional information that you want them to see. And then lastly here is that you have no more than 3 to 5 links. And again, this is an inverse relationship. The more links you have in an email, the fewer responses you'll get through each of those, links and the engagement that you'll get on those. All right. I keep thinking that there's no more left, but all right. And number 5 here is the key action above the scroll line. You've heard me say that before. I'm going to continue reinforcing that and driving that home. All right. You have to make sure you tell people what you want them to do and give them the reason to act. Now, here's 4 reasons for people to pay attention. All right. When people start with saying, do I open this email? The first thing they look at is, who did I get it from? Who sent this to me? And so if they don't recognize you, then they're not going to read your email. And so, for example, I got an email the other day from someone that I met at a networking event, and I had already forgotten their name, which is terrible for me to say, but it's true. And so I was like, I don't know this person. I'm not opening this email. And then I was kind of like, wait a minute, I wonder, the subject line had a little bit of a reference that I, kind of sparked some bit of familiarity. So I opened the email and I realized, oh, I do remember where I know this person from. I met them at a networking event. And so, but again, the recognized sender there did not make the connection. And so even when I first started my business, people didn't know my business name, but they knew me. So I started sending emails from me, and now I've kind of merged them together where it's from me and from my business because my business name is more well known now. So the answer to this question of who sent it is and who the recognized sender is, however people know you best. So if they know you as the product name, send it as the product name. If they know you as a person, send it as you as a person. If they know it as the company name, send it as the company name. All right, and that's the most important thing to get your email open. The second most important is, is there some kind of a compelling subject line? Is this worth my time to read? All right, once I get it open, and so different things. Well, I'll give you some tips when we get to the examples coming up in a minute here. Again, the subject line has got to be what captures people's attention. What's the timing? All right, did I get this at a time where it's convenient to me to open this and to read it? So you want to play around with that too to see when your best open rates are. People are reading your emails, and your best click-throughs as well. And so it's not just so much about when it's me reading it, but as it is about me acting on it. So again, do you want me to register now? Do you want me to sign up now? Do you want me to submit that form? Whatever it is. And the last piece here is that is it easy for me to share this with other people that I know? So can I forward this email easily to somebody else and have it look good on their inbox? Or can I share it on social media? Those are all important reasons, for them to, for people to open it. So I get this question all the time. When is the best time to send emails? All right, and you can see from the charts here, there isn't the best time. There was this statement for, years ago that it was, it's Tuesday and Wednesday between 10 and 2 because it was after Monday. Monday was too busy for the weekend, blah, blah, blah. Mobile has changed all of that. There is a complete shift that emails can be read at any time, anywhere, and so it really comes down to your audience. And so, for example, one of my customers is a retail business, and their primary business, their busiest days with their retail business is Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So since those are their busiest days, we send out their emails on Thursday nights when people are thinking about stopping there on their way home on Friday, going there on Saturday when they're running their errands. Those are the different times that people are going to most likely act on it. So we want to be top of mind as they're heading into the busiest season of their week. All right? And so we also want to focus on tracking our results. Results are important because you want to know what reports actually matter and which ones don't. All right? And then so the focus here isn't so much on, I mean, lots of people would say, oh, my open rate is awesome. And my response is, that's great, but what's your click-through rate? It doesn't matter that somebody's opening, well, it does matter, but it's great that people are opening your email, but it's even better that people are acting on your email and taking action. So the click-through is the epitome of an action when you're trying to figure out what results matter. All right? But use those actions and those activities to drive your decisions as to what you want to revamp and how you want to move things around and how you want to make sure that those call to actions really register with people. All right? But as we put this all together and we start to wrap up here as we head into Q&A session at the end here, is that you got to remember something. You have an advantage, and that's the relationship that you have. Your customers love you, and so I suspect that if you go from where you are today and you go someplace else, a lot of those relationships are not going to just evaporate and dissolve. You're going to stay in contact with people. All right. So as you're getting started, if you're not doing anything with email today, all right, get your list together. And get started with, even if it's just a couple of people. It doesn't matter if you have a list of 5, 10, 15, 20, or 100 to get started. The point is that you get started. All right? And then Start by creating your first campaign, get it all put together, and then have it get sent out. And then watch what happens. All right? A lot of marketers today, or a lot of salespeople today, they put these emails together, they send it all out, and then they go, okay, done. Move on to the next thing. I don't have to think about that anymore. I'm going to watch the orders roll in or the inquiries roll in. No, 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 no. It can't be like that. You need to go back and look at your statistics, all right, and see when people were opening them, when people were clicking on them. Maybe if you sent out a newsletter with 3 articles, which article was the one that had the most response, that people connected with the best. Maybe we want to focus more of our content around that type of an article. You have to go back and look at and watch what's happening. All right, don't just assume that because it's out the door, your job is done. All right, so here's a kind of a summary of what an ideal email looks like. And so I'm going to kind of give you a couple of pointers as we go through. If you were going to sit down today and design an email, what are all of the best things that you should put into it and make it look like? Here's what they are. The very first thing is keep the preview pane in mind. All right, so you want to maximize the top 2-4 inches. Now, the preview pane is also important because you may have seen it in some of your emails on your mobile devices that there's the from name, there's the subject line, and now there's this additional text that comes up below, after the subject line, and at least it does on my iPhone. And what that is it can be called a couple of different things, but a lot of times the email clients are going and reading the first couple of lines of text of the email and including that as part of the preview on your mobile device. So you want to carefully play with those things to make sure that you're using, we call it the second subject line, but you're using that real estate to your best advantage, all right, with the preview pane. All right, the subject line should be 50 characters, all right, or less. And so in this particular case, it's 8 words, 35 characters. Now, the example I used here is that I was talking with a client who they sell office furniture products. And so they sent me their email, and they said, well, can you critique it for me? I said, absolutely. And as I was looking at their subject line, the subject line was this, okay? Ergonomic office chairs help reduce workers' comp claims. Now, okay, it's a little bit on the long side, but the first thing that's talking about is ergonomic office chairs. And personally, I don't care about ergonomic office chairs. I think that they're a little weird. I don't sit in one. I don't have any interest in one. All right? But as a business owner, I care about workers' comp claims. Certainly want them to stay low. So what we talked about doing was let's swap the value-add statements in that subject line, and let's put that in the beginning. So reduce workers' comp claims with ergonomic office chairs sounds a whole lot better than it does, the other way around. So keep that in mind when you're writing your subject lines, that you write in there something that's going to make sure the value is right at the beginning. And use some like numbers. So emails that get open great are the ones that have subject lines of 3 tips for keeping your pipes from freezing this winter, or something like that. 3 tips. I can read 3 tips. You got me. I want to kind of get those thoughts in my head, and then I'm going to move on. So those are all good things to do. Include your business name in the from text. All right, so your from name should include your business name. And again, this goes back to my statement earlier, which was however you will be most recognized is what your from name should be is in the text. Use the share bar. Why not? What's great about the share bar is it gives people an opportunity to take your email content and share it out to their social media sites. And so while you may put your email together and then share it to your Facebook page, your Twitter page, your LinkedIn page, all right, giving people this tool allows them to take your email and then send it out to their social media sites. So it's word-of-mouth advertising on social media for you. Choose the right template for your message. And again, keep in mind you have to design your emails for mobile. Your logo should be left or center. It should never be on the right. Now, I was doing a workshop one day, and this guy sitting in the back of the room, and I said this statement, and he just sits there and starts shaking his head back and forth, in the no fashion, left and right, And I said, I'm sorry, sir, do you disagree with that statement? Because I always run away from fights, So he goes, absolutely. And I said, well, why do you disagree with that statement? He says, well, because I deal primarily with an audience that is in the Middle East. He goes, and over there they read right to left. Well, I give him kudos for that because he knows his audience. So, okay, that's a great exception, But on general, people that you're probably communicating with, they are doing, they're reading left and to right. So that's the rationale behind that is that the logo captures me as one of the first things that's there. Use your brand colors, tie that in. So you'll notice in the Half Moon Yoga Studio logo, the Yoga Studio green is on the background of the email. All right, so it's consistent for the brand. All right, communicate through pictures, make them clickable. We said that earlier too, but keep them down to 3 or less. And again, I said less is more. All right, content has to be relevant, has to be interesting to your audience you're sending it through. All right, and again, 20 lines of text or less have the highest click-through rates. All right, when you're keeping those reports out there. Key action above the scroll line. Have you heard that before? Did I say that earlier? I know I did. All right, and then you want to make sure that you're minimizing the number of links. 1 is best. All right, and then again, that inverse relationship, after 2, 3, 4, and 5, it just drops, downhill like crazy. All right, and then tell people you're on social media. The whole idea in social media is, if you build it, they will come, is not true. All right, you have to tell people that you're there. So include in your email links to showcase your Facebook page, your Twitter page, your Pinterest page, your LinkedIn page, any of those places that you can be found, your YouTube page. All right, any of those places you can be found. Make sure that you're telling people, hey, we're here, to drive people to that. Other than that, as we wrap up here, and it looks like I'm doing we're pretty well right on time. There are some resources you can feel free to go check out on the Constant Contact website, www.constantcontact.com. There's also a free trial that you can get there, and then there's a whole library that you can go into where you can find out different guides and blog posts and learn lots of different things when it comes to email marketing and using best practices that are on there. Other than that, I'm sure we probably have some questions. So, Rocio, what do we got?
So, no one has questions. I'm quite surprised because, here's one from Pat Dugan. Thanks, Pat. The scroll line, the same on, well, okay, hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can expand this. And she's saying, is the scroll line the same on all computers, same on all iPhones?
Excellent question. The answer is no. The scroll line can be anywhere depending on the device that it's being viewed at. So, for example, on my desktop computer in my office, I have that maxed out on super high resolution, basically like 1080p HD resolution on my monitor. And that makes the print really, really small, so I fit a lot of information on my screen. So the scroll line is really, really far down on my desktop computer. However, on my iPhone, it's a totally different place. So here's how you deal with that. When you create, all right, what you want to do before you send it out to your list is send it to yourself. And so look at it on your computer, look at it in a variety of different emails. So if you have a Gmail account and an AOL and a Hotmail and a Yahoo and a work email, send it to all those different places and look in the different email clients on your computer. Maybe if you have multiple computers, look at it there. But also, and most importantly, check it on your mobile phone. So when you send yourself a test email, look at it on your mobile phone and see where the scroll line is and approximate it. All right. So again, generally like the iPhones today tend to be the smaller screens for most of the mobile devices. Again, if anybody has the Samsung Galaxy S, whatever, it's like this giant, enormous phone, that's like a mini tablet. The scroll line can be different on that. But the bottom line here is test it on yourself and make sure you check in a couple of different ways.
Excellent. Thank you, Kevin. So the questions are starting to roll in. The next question is it easy to transfer data from MailChimp to Constant Contact?
It actually is. So what you can do is in MailChimp is you just export it out to an Excel or a CSV file, and then you can take it to Constant Contact and upload it from that same Excel file into Constant Contact.
All right, thank you. That was asked by Bob Levitt. Cara Riccio wants to know, how do these tips apply to promotional products specifically?
So for promotional products, what I think you're talking about is the promotional products of like you give out you have pens and all those different types of office supplies that people get, Post-it notes, that kind of thing. Use images of those products. Images when you're doing promotional products. Images are absolutely key, because people might not be able to feel them and touch them, but if you're showing them pictures of them, put a picture into your email, click on the picture, it should take you to maybe a web page that has the product showcased and maybe a variety of other images that somebody can take a look at, so that way they kind of know a little bit more about what this promotional product is that they're taking a look at. So email is still very important for using those images to showcase what promotional products you have available.
Excellent, thank you. Janice just wants to know if this will be available online later to refer to, meaning the content, because she enjoyed it. And yes, it will be. We'll have it on our YouTube channel, and Kevin, you'll have some the slides to hand out later on, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, wonderful. From Ted Gallant, constant contact charges per month, but I only do maybe 10 email blasts during the year. Any suggestions?
So yeah, constant contact charges based on the size of your list per month. And so if you're only doing 10, and again, it's hard to say if you're doing 10 per year and it's spaced out over a couple of month period, it's kind of just hard to deal with that. But if there's like a season where you are very busy, then maybe like, during the holiday season you're very busy, but then during the summertime it's a little bit quieter for you. Constant Contact has what's called a suspend option, which means that your account stays active. You are able to manage your account. You're able to manage your contacts. You're able to upload your lists. You're able to get into everything, review your campaigns. But during that time, you cannot send out emails. And what they do is it's like a very small fraction of the price for the monthly charge if you go into suspend status. But so that's the option I probably would pursue, in that particular case.
All right, thank you. So Mark Brodsky asked, you mentioned the scroll line and preview pane. However, those items are controlled by the email client and the preferences of the user. Is there a best way to get around the user preferences?
No, and that's the thing, which is why it's so important that you use what's, again, a mobile responsive template that's going to respond to the device it's being viewed on. Like I said, I think I said it earlier, it comes down to you don't have control over those things. As much as it would be nice to be able to force everybody to have a consistent platform, it's just not the way that it is.
Okay, thank you. And oh, here's a big one. So Mike Higgins says, thanks for the advice, very helpful. This is not really a question, but more some of my own advice to everyone. I have to do a lot of cold calling for my business, so I use email quite often. It is my main way of reaching out to potential customers. I often struggle internally with worrying that I am emailing people too often and that I am becoming a nuisance to them and turning them off. I came up with a term that is used when emailing people, and it is polite persistence in my efforts to reach them. They seem to appreciate this and the fact that I'm thinking about them and that I am being proactive in stating that I'm not trying to be a pest with them. That's very nice. I have also found that everyone is very busy, and most people do appreciate follow-up emails from me because they often tell me that if I don't contact them, they get too busy and forget to contact me. Thank you for that note there, Mike.
Yeah, and I'll just tack on to that too. Good email marketing is about staying top of mind. All right, it's not about blasting people, like we said. It's not about saying being super overly promotional and saying buy from me right now. It's really about continuing and developing the relationship so that way one day when they're ready to buy something, they go, oh, I hear from Kevin all the time. Let me reach out to him because I need this now. That's really what good email marketing causes people to do.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. I think that's all of the questions that we have for today, Kevin. Everything has been excellent. Thank you, Kevin, again. Kevin will be joining us next week at the Palmer's Crossing in New Jersey. The information is on our website, so if you're in the area, stop by. It starts at 8:30. Again, Palmer's Crossing. If you have any questions, please give me a call at 914-848-7369, extension 303 again. This webinar was recorded. We are going to upload it to our YouTube channel, and Kevin will be available to answer any questions moving forward and to hand out any materials you guys need. Kevin, thank you so much for doing this webinar presentation for us. We truly enjoyed it and got a lot of information out of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. You guys are a great group.
Thank you, Kevin. We'll have everyone have a great afternoon. Thank you for joining us, and until next time. Bye.